Rebecca Arrow Gray was the kind of woman everyone wanted to believe, charming, brave, and heartbreakingly tragic. But behind her soft smile and tearful tales of terminal cancer and a miracle pregnancy was a web of lies so twisted it shattered the lives of everyone who trusted her. This is the shocking story of how one woman fooled a town, faked her death sentence, and played with hearts, wallets, and the truth, all while hiding a double life of betrayal. Rebecca Gray, known to her online followers as Arrow, was the kind of woman people wanted to root for. She had a soft, angelic presence that made others feel instantly at ease, whether it was in person or through the glowing screen of a phone. In the small town of Marlow Creek, she was widely recognized for her kindness and poise. Her social media profiles were filled with inspirational quotes, carefully arranged photos, and captions that read, like diary entries from someone deeply connected to their emotions. When she announced that she had been diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer, the community was devastated. The news spread like wildfire, and almost instantly, support started pouring in from friends, neighbors, and strangers. Rebecca began documenting her battle against cancer. Her updates were raw and emotional. She posted pictures of herself lying in bed with IV tubes, wrote about the side effects of chemotherapy, and uploaded videos where she struggled to hold back tears. Her hair slowly disappeared, replaced by colorful scarves, and sometimes brave, bald selfies with motivational messages. "Strength isn't about muscles," she wrote in one post. "It's about standing tall when life tries to tear you down." People were moved. They saw her as a fighter, a warrior battling for her life. Crowdfunding campaigns were created to help cover her treatment costs. And within weeks, over $80,000 was raised. Local businesses put up signs with her name on them. Charity events were held in her honor, and she became the face of hope in a town that rarely made headlines. Then came another shocking announcement. Rebecca was pregnant. She called it her miracle baby, saying it had happened just before her treatments began. Doctors had warned her that chemotherapy would make it nearly impossible to carry a child, but somehow life had given her one more reason to keep fighting. She posted ultrasound images, started a baby registry, and shared photos of the tiny nursery she was putting together in her apartment. Her followers cried with joy. The pregnancy gave everyone something to believe in. It was a story of life blooming in the face of death, of a woman carrying both pain and promise in her body. Donations tripled. People sent her baby clothes, toys, diapers, and books. A local church organized a baby shower. Pictures from the event flooded her timeline. Rebecca smiling softly in a pink maternity dress, hands resting on a small bump, surrounded by gifts and well-wishers. Despite her illness, she never seemed bitter. Her posts reflected gratitude and resilience. She thanked her boyfriend, Daniel Yates, for standing by her side, calling him her rock. They had been dating for just under 2 years, and although Daniel was quiet and kept out of the spotlight, everyone admired his devotion. He worked night shifts at the hospital, trying to support them both while attending her appointments during the day. Rebecca painted him as the silent hero behind her journey, the man who held her when the pain became too much, and who whispered words of encouragement when she wanted to give up. Together, they became a symbol of unwavering love in the face of darkness. Marlow Creek rallied around the couple. High school students sold bracelets with Team Arrow engraved on them. A local artist painted a mural of a phoenix rising from the ashes with Rebecca's name beneath it. Her story was covered in the town's newspaper, and local TV stations aired interviews where she bravely spoke about her future, her baby, and her battle with time. She inspired people to appreciate life, to hug their loved ones tighter, and to find beauty even in suffering. But behind all the admiration, behind every tear shed by strangers who had never met her, something wasn't quite right. Small inconsistencies in her story were overlooked. No one dared to question the details. After all, who would lie about something so serious? Who would fabricate pain and carry it like a badge of honor? Rebecca Arrow Gray was seen as a beacon of strength. But soon, everything she built would be shattered by the truth waiting just beneath the surface. While the town of Marlow Creek was busy celebrating the bravery of Rebecca Gray, she was weaving a complex web of lies behind the scenes. To the public, she was the innocent, strong-willed woman battling a cruel disease while preparing to become a mother. But in reality, Rebecca lived a double, sometimes triple life that no one could have predicted. When her boyfriend Daniel left for work each evening, exhausted from long shifts at the hospital, Rebecca's mask would slip. The moment the door closed behind him, she transformed. Hidden behind multiple social media profiles, she reached out to men across different states, sometimes using her real name, other times using aliases. To one man, she was a grieving widow who'd lost her husband in a tragic motorcycle accident. To another, she was a single mom escaping an abusive relationship. She spun her stories with precision, tailoring them to fit whatever emotional weakness her targets might have. And they believed her because she made them feel needed. She spoke with warmth and vulnerability, and her fake tears flowed freely whenever she wanted sympathy. These weren't one-time exchanges either. She built relationships over time, extracting gifts, money, and attention from each man as if it were her right. Her most committed affair was with a man named Craig Foster, a divorced mechanic living 40 miles away in Reading. Craig had been through a painful breakup and found comfort in Rebecca's messages, which always arrived late at night. She told him she was a single woman raising a baby alone, abandoned by the child's father, and struggling with a serious medical condition. She sent him the same baby bump photos she'd posted online for her followers and claimed the baby was his. Craig, emotionally vulnerable and looking for connection, fell hard. He sent her money for prenatal vitamins, bought furniture for the nursery, and even paid for hotel weekends where she claimed she needed to get away from stress. But Rebecca wasn't only juggling one man behind Daniel's back. She was talking to at least 5. Some relationships were purely emotional, others involved money or romantic promises. She had a gift for changing her tone depending on who she was speaking with. Sweet and nurturing with one, tough and sarcastic with another. To every man, she was someone different. But to all of them, she was a victim of life's cruel misfortunes. She knew how to keep the lies from colliding, spacing out messages and using burner phones when necessary. Her apartment, while modest, was filled with gifts from different men, sometimes with name tags that had to be removed before Daniel got home. Daniel, meanwhile, had no clue. He worked long hours and often came home too tired to notice anything out of the ordinary. He trusted her completely, even helping her post updates online about her cancer journey and miracle baby. She let him think they were building a life together, and he believed it. He paid rent, utilities, and nearly all the groceries, while Rebecca focused on what she claimed was healing and resting. But resting was the last thing she was doing. She also maintained an online profile in a cancer support forum where she told fabricated stories about her treatments. She spoke in detail about procedures she never had, side effects she never experienced, and emotional pain she had read about but never truly felt. The members of the group, many of them actual patients, sympathized deeply with her. Some even mailed her gift baskets, blankets, and inspirational cards. Her manipulation was far-reaching and shameless. She took advantage of people who were truly suffering, stealing not just money but trust and emotional energy from strangers who thought they were comforting someone in need. The lies became so layered that even Rebecca seemed to forget where one story ended and another began. She was constantly deleting messages, clearing her browser history, and double-checking which story she had told to which person. But no matter how carefully she planned, a secret like hers couldn't stay hidden forever. There were cracks in her performance, subtle at first, but growing deeper with each passing week. She didn't realize it yet, but her empire built on lies was beginning to crumble. All it would take was one wrong move to set everything spiraling out of control. The unraveling began with a mistake so small that Rebecca didn't even notice it. One evening, Craig Foster posted a photo of a baby onesie he had mailed her, thanking her for being the strongest woman I've ever known, and tagging her personal account. His post was public, and among those who saw it was a mutual acquaintance who also followed Rebecca's main cancer awareness profile. Confused by the unfamiliar name and personal tone, the acquaintance took a screenshot and quietly messaged Daniel, asking if Rebecca had another account or if she had started a new fundraiser. Daniel brushed it off at first, assuming it was an error, but the message planted a seed of doubt. That night, while Rebecca was asleep, he scrolled through her phone for the first time. What he found was a maze of conversations, hidden apps, and profiles he didn't recognize. There were dozens of messages from men he had never heard of, some romantic, others deeply personal. His heart sank as he read texts filled with love confessions, screenshots of money transfers, and even promises of co-parenting. Still clinging to hope that it was all some misunderstanding, Daniel confronted her the next day. Rebecca didn't cry or panic like he expected. Instead, she flipped the conversation, accusing him of violating her privacy and claiming the men were just online friends who supported her emotionally through her illness. She swore the baby was his, and that the stress of fighting cancer had made her emotionally dependent on strangers. For a brief moment, Daniel wanted to believe her, but something inside him had shifted. He began to doubt everything. Her illness, the pregnancy, their relationship. So he started asking questions. He contacted her oncologist's office, only to learn there was no record of Rebecca Gray being treated there. Confused, he called other clinics she claimed to visit and received the same answer every time. No file, no treatment, no patient by that name. At first, Daniel considered that maybe she used a different name for privacy, but the pattern was too consistent. The final blow came when he asked to attend her next prenatal checkup. Rebecca panicked. She claimed the appointment had been moved, then said the doctor didn't allow guests during ultrasounds due to new hospital policies. None of it added up. So Daniel did something drastic. He called the clinic directly and gave them her birth date. The nurse politely informed him there had never been a pregnancy under that name. Everything crumbled from there. Daniel moved out of the apartment, taking only what he had paid for. He went directly to the police with his findings, providing them with screenshots of her messages, financial records from their shared account, and details about the crowdfunding campaigns. What began as a simple report of suspected fraud turned into a full investigation. Authorities began looking into the GoFundMe pages Rebecca had launched for her cancer treatments and baby needs. Records showed she had raised over $100,000, 0 cents across multiple platforms. Many donations had come from sympathetic strangers who believed they were helping a young mother battle death while preparing for new life. As investigators dug deeper, they discovered layers of deception. The photos Rebecca posted during chemotherapy were found to be stock images, cropped and edited to appear more personal. The IV shots were staged using medical tubing she purchased online. Even the bold selfies were filtered using editing apps that blurred the lines between real and fake. She had never been pregnant. The ultrasound photos were taken from Google Images, slightly adjusted in contrast and posted as her own. The baby shower gifts were real, but the registry had been under a false name. Even the maternity clothes had been borrowed from friends or bought secondhand to keep up appearances. News of the scandal hit Marlow Creek like a lightning bolt. People were stunned. The mural of her as a phoenix was quietly painted over, and the local businesses that had once promoted her story removed the posters from their windows. The same community that had cheered for her now looked on in silence, betrayed and humiliated. Rebecca had fooled them all, and now the truth was out. There was no telling how far the damage would spread. With the investigation officially underway, Rebecca Arrow Gray went from local hero to public pariah almost overnight. The same townspeople who once rallied around her with casseroles, care packages, and handwritten notes of support now watched her every move with cold suspicion. News outlets quickly picked up the story, branding it with sensational headlines that spread like wildfire. Within days, Rebecca's face was plastered across every screen, no longer as a fighter but as a fraud. Law enforcement worked alongside financial fraud analysts to trace where every cent of the donation money had gone. The findings were staggering. Rebecca hadn't just used the funds for basic living expenses or small luxuries. She had splurged on spa weekends, designer handbags, boutique hotel stays, and even a short vacation under a fake name. She rented cabins in the mountains for romantic getaways with her online lovers, each of whom believed they were the father of her unborn child. Many of the men had wired her money directly, believing it was for medication or baby supplies, but most of it ended up funding her web of indulgence. Authorities also uncovered an elaborate system of lies Rebecca had built across multiple crowdfunding platforms. She had different versions of her story tailored for different audiences. On one site, she was a single mom dying of late-stage cancer. On another, she was a domestic violence survivor escaping a dangerous man. And on yet another, she pretended to be a nurse who got sick after contracting an aggressive illness while saving others. In some campaigns, she even used altered voice recordings and fake testimonials from people she claimed were fellow patients or hospital staff. It was a theatrical production of grief, survival, and sympathy designed solely for emotional and financial manipulation. As public outrage grew, several of her former supporters came forward to describe their experiences. A retired school teacher shared how she had sent Rebecca her own late daughter's baby clothes after reading one of her Facebook posts. A young mother recalled emptying her modest savings account to help with Rebecca's supposed chemotherapy costs. These personal accounts stirred deep anger in the community, which now realized it had been emotionally and financially exploited. Meanwhile, Rebecca remained strangely silent. She locked all her social media accounts and avoided reporters outside her apartment. Her once bussy pages, filled with motivational quotes and updates on her condition, were now ghost towns. But silence didn't equal surrender. Even as the walls closed in, Rebecca appeared defiant. Investigators found she had tried to delete messages, wipe digital histories, and even destroy a burner phone, but not before forensic analysts recovered key data linking her to multiple acts of deception. The trail was too wide, the evidence too deep. One of the most damning discoveries came from an encrypted folder on her laptop, labeled Storylines. Inside were documents detailing the timelines, names, and fabricated medical progressions of her different personas. She had meticulously written out dialogue she'd used in text messages, fake medical terms and symptoms to mimic depending on which lie she was telling. It wasn't a casual scam, it was calculated, rehearsed, and deliberate. As the case built momentum, prosecutors prepared multiple charges against her: wire fraud, identity fraud, obtaining property by false pretenses, and conspiracy to deceive. Each charge carried serious penalties, and the prosecution made it clear they intended to seek the maximum sentence. While Rebecca was not yet arrested, a grand jury was being assembled, and it was only a matter of time before formal charges would be handed down. The men she had deceived were devastated. Craig Foster, the mechanic who thought he was going to be a father, gave an emotional interview where he described feeling used and broken. Other victims declined to speak publicly, but cooperated fully with law enforcement. Some even began organizing a civil lawsuit to reclaim the money they had given her. Rebecca's name became a warning in Marlow Creek, a reminder that evil doesn't always look like a villain. Sometimes it smiles through a screen, holds your hand, and asks for help with trembling fingers. And sometimes it does all that while secretly watching the world crumble beneath a pile of lies. The trial of Rebecca Arrow Gray became the most anticipated event in Marlow Creek's history. Crowds lined up outside the courthouse on the first day, hoping to witness the downfall of a woman who had once been celebrated as a community icon. Reporters from across the country arrived to cover the proceedings, turning the small courtroom into a national stage. Every detail was dissected, every expression scrutinized, and at the center of it all stood Rebecca, dressed in a modest gray blouse, her once confident posture replaced by stiff stillness. She showed little emotion as the charges were read aloud: fraud, identity deception, grand larceny, and conspiracy. Prosecutors presented an overwhelming collection of evidence, building a case so airtight that even her defense attorney seemed overwhelmed. The jury was shown messages from her encrypted folders detailing the scripted conversations she used to manipulate her victims. Financial records displayed a clear trail from donation platforms to her luxury purchases and vacation bookings. Screenshots from her social media pages, alongside metadata analysis, revealed how she orchestrated multiple false identities and illnesses with precision. Perhaps the most damning moment came when the lead investigator displayed a whiteboard connecting her aliases, online profiles, and corresponding schemes. With every red string stretched between a lie and a bank transfer, the web of deceit became clearer. The emotional weight of the trial intensified when several of her victims took the stand. Their voices cracked with disbelief and pain as they described how deeply they had trusted her. One woman spoke about giving Rebecca her wedding ring to pawn for treatment money. Another man had co-signed a lease for her, believing he was helping a sick mother create a safe home for her unborn child. Rebecca's defense attempted to shift the narrative by citing mental health issues and emotional trauma from an abusive childhood, claiming she suffered from a personality disorder that blurred reality. However, mental health experts countered that while she showed signs of manipulation and narcissistic traits, she remained fully aware of her actions and had taken repeated steps to cover her tracks, indicating premeditation. Public reaction to the trial was explosive. Social media erupted with heated debates about whether Rebecca deserved leniency due to possible mental illness or should face the full weight of the law. Former friends who once praised her began releasing statements apologizing for supporting her. Crowdfunding platforms updated their security policies in direct response to her case, implementing new verification procedures for medical fundraisers. She had become a cautionary tale far beyond the boundaries of Marlow Creek. On the 12th day of the trial, the jury returned a unanimous verdict: guilty on all counts. When the judge read the sentence, 15 years in prison without the possibility of parole, Rebecca finally broke her silence. She didn't offer an apology. She didn't cry. Instead, she looked directly at the crowd and smiled faintly, as if she had known all along how it would end. Her expression unsettled many in the courtroom. It wasn't sorrow or regret, it was acceptance. Cold, calculated, and distant. Following her sentencing, the community began the difficult process of rebuilding trust. Local support groups formed to help victims of online fraud. One of Rebecca's victims led a campaign to raise awareness about digital scams and the emotional manipulation tactics used by con artists. The mural that had once honored her was replaced by a painting of an open eye surrounded by tangled strings, a tribute to vigilance and truth. Despite her fall from grace, Rebecca continued to receive occasional letters from people who believed she had been misunderstood. Some saw her as a symbol of how mental illness can twist a person's sense of reality, while others admired her ability to construct such an elaborate fantasy. But for the majority, she remained a haunting reminder of how deeply someone could betray those who cared for them the most. Years later, documentaries, podcasts, and investigative books would cover her story, analyzing how one woman deceived a town, built a kingdom of lies, and watched it collapse in public view. The name Rebecca Hara Gray would forever be associated with betrayal, manipulation, and a scandal that changed a community's sense of innocence forever. And though she vanished behind prison walls, her story lingered, etched in the memories of those who had believed in her.